me on the stage now. I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, my time.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Apex Racing TV for another round of the Radical Cup iRacing Invitational. We're here at Mid-Ohio in the United States. Andrew Woodhouse and Tom Drewer with you on commentary. with Scott Newton on the cameras. Tom, it's great to be at Mid-Ohio. It's a terrific course, this. Very much an old school track, almost British in flavour, really, in the way it's laid out and the type of circuit it is. I'm anticipating a really great race today.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to be with you. And as you say, fantastic to be here at Mid-Ohio. Of course, we were meant to be, the Blue Marble Radical Cup was meant to be at Mid-Ohio next weekend. So this is nice to be able to get this one in, albeit virtually. We have announced that our first event now will be Road America, not with IndyCar, but with SVRA. So, yeah, as you mentioned, a great racing track here in North America. Quite a bit of medium speed to high speed corners. Lots of technical stuff in the middle and ending this lap. So we'll see how these drivers navigate this circuit. I think a lot of opportunity for some big mistakes to be made here today, particularly as you come off the back straight, and try and carry as much speed as you can through that sweeper. That gravel trap on the outside really sucks you in if you drop a wheel.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think mistakes get punished around here. I think there's not a lot of leeway for the drivers, which for me makes it a great circuit, and it's one that I always enjoy coming to as a driver and as a commentator. We always get some interesting racing. Maybe the small downside is a slight lack of overtaking opportunities, but I think we will see some people have a dive into the hairpin at turn 2, or maybe even at the end of the back straight as well, where the start line is in IndyCar. So potentially there's some moves there. Just as we're going through qualifying, Tom, we heard that Radical had a big announcement yesterday. Can you enlighten us?
Absolutely. We're pleased to announce a brand new car, the Radical SR3 XX. And effectively, the world's best-selling race car has just got smarter. We've partnered with AIM, of course, the guys that bring just about everyone in club racing and a lot of professional motorsport, all of their data and technology, and they have brought us their latest steering wheel, which will feature an LCD display and plenty of buttons and dials for the drivers to tap into a whole range of new data and telemetry, including tire pressure, temperatures, and laser ride height. So we're excited. This is quite a big advancement for the SR3. Of course, nearly 1,300 of those cars sold around the world. And this one with some key styling updates, some new headlights. The wing end plates are very different as well. And a new, better seat, which I guess holds in the bead seats that you see in professional racing cars a little bit better than a typical seat. So it'll be more comfortable, it'll be smarter, it'll give the drivers more data to go faster. And we're looking forward to seeing some of those cars on track in the very near future.
Yeah, exciting times there for Radical sports cars, and exciting times for us here in the qualifying session as well, because we're looking at the standings. Mackay Stevens currently with the fastest lap, 1:16.72, and there's a few drivers out like Matt Corrins, who's trying to beat the time. Looking at Richard Thomas, who's currently in 17th place. Let's see if he can improve. He cannot improve, so it doesn't look like the track is getting any quicker out there at the moment for these Radical SR8s, of course. And here, coming down the back straight, look at Zach Woolen. He's 0.2 of a second down on the pole position time, but he's going again another lap. Tommy's got the fastest first sector that he's done personally, so he's going to see if he can come round and improve.
Absolutely, just some dying moments.
Oh, that's going to affect it.
Yeah, that will indeed. The dying moments of qualifying, and the classic SR8 that we see on iRacing here. Just a spin there. So Mackay Stevens looks like he's done it. A local. Fantastic to see. He's a member of Autobahn Country Club, one of the Radical instructors out there with Team Stradale, and done a fantastic job. So it's great to see a new name on top of the charts. What I was going to mention before is next week, part of this launch of the XX, we will actually be on R Factor. and we'll have a virtual tour of the XX. So that's exciting stuff. Check out our YouTube and social media channels for more on that. But right now, exciting for Mackay Stevens, Zachary Woolen, and Daniel Morad making amends for a bit of a rough trip up to Canada in his home race last weekend, third on the grid.
Yeah, it didn't go particularly well for him last time out, but he was hoping for better this time. He starts third ahead of David Jarvis, Premislav Pianazek in fifth, still Stankin sixth, Paul Crabb seventh, and Paul Crabb who took the win in Canada. Matt Anderson eighth, Matt Corrins in ninth, who got very, very close to taking it. Horatio Brown in 10th, Mark Tranter 11th, Alex Ellis in 12th, 13th will be Darrell Taylor, Andy Kutcher in 14th, Tom Nuxall 15th, then it's Tom Mills and Richard Thomas in 17th. Ben Island 18th ahead of Jerome Desadlier, then it's Nathan Jones, then John Fowle. Keith Carter is in 22nd place, and the rest of the grid will scroll through on your screen. The reason why, I just want to get a quick word. If we can get a quick word, Tom, with Mark Tranter. He's sat on the grid.
Yeah,
Mark, can you
if
hear
you
us?
can.
Hello, yeah, I can hear you.
So, Mark, very quickly, we've got about a minute remaining before the pace car starts. How's your qualifying?
Got my lap in at the very beginning and then struggled to sort of get a clean lap in after that, which is me pushing too hard more than anything. But yeah, hopefully we've got the pace to move forward a little bit and aim for that top 5.
What's the biggest challenge around this circuit? Lots of corners which you can easily come unstuck. I imagine around the back, just trying to slide the car through those high speed ones.
There's a couple of corners where you're sort of coming over a crest and getting on the throttle at the same time, and it's really easy to just lose the back end when you do that. So just watching out for that. That's the main thing.
Well, the pace car's taking off, so I guess we'll leave you to it. But good luck today.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Hopefully, we'll see you at the other end of this race. Well,
Mark Tranter there. And I don't know about you, Tom, it's always nerve-wracking talking to people on the grid, but here we go. Mackay Stevens, well, he's taking the first pole position of the season, and let's see if he can turn it into a race win. It's the 5 red lights then. And then the green flag flies up mid-Ohio. It's a great start by Stevens. He got a good jump. Zach Woolen in second. Morad's trying to make a move on the inside. You can see a couple of drivers. Anderson trying to make a move as well. And into turn 1.
It's quite messy, isn't it? But there's been a spin. So the lights went out very late at mid-Ohio here. We're not used to that in iRacing. I think it caught some of these drivers out, but they are streaming through now. A little bit of single file action. But a pass for second place here. So it looks like, is that Morad trying to make a move on Woolen?
Yeah, it is indeed.
Or Daniel the other way around.
The Canadian trying
around
to come
the outside.
Through. Oh, he's done well there.
Yeah, a fantastic pass by Daniel Morad. So he's up into second place. That's the white Radical car there, with the blue marble on the front. And we've had a slide and a spin.
Brown. It's Horatio Brown off.
Oh,
he's
there's
in the
chaos
gravel
behind.
He's been joined by a few others.
So the Jamaican off the track, and Mark Tranter sort of managed to clear all of that drama. He made it through. So the man we were talking on the grid is up there in the top 10 in 9th position at the moment. Matt Anderson, the Australian, who's 10th. And behind them, some chaos in this field. Lots of cars around this extremely tight, twisty circuit.
You saw Brown. He was sort of off at the side of the track on the grass, patiently waiting to see if he could come back on. Then he saw cars crashing in his mirrors, and he thought, "Oh God, I best get on with this and try and get back on." And then he immediately scarpered back onto the track. So he's still running. Horatio Brown, just quite a way down the order. I think in the 30s. Up the inside then for Woolen on trying to repass Morad, I believe, into the back end of the circuit, and he is still ahead of Morad then. And we're looking at Anderson now.
So up front, Mackay Stevens doing a tremendous job. He is streaming away in the lead of this motor race. A fantastic start.
Oh, yeah, big lead for Stevens. Got a really good job, but that's what happens when the two behind battle. They haven't even been battling sort of, you know, they haven't really had any problems, but yeah, they've lost a lot of time to Stevens. Great start by him, and then it's Morad in fourth, then it's Jarvis. And Matt Corrins has actually made a good start, up to 6th from 9th. And Alex Ellis is up into 7th. He started in 12th.
So a little look there from the 42. And that's Mackay Corrins. So the man that got so close last week in Canada is trying to make a move here. Up the back straight, he'll get a good slipstream here from the SR8s. The flames belching out the back of that V8 powered engine. And a nice line through that relatively high-speed sweeper. This is the tricky stuff here at Mid-Ohio. How to get around, not take too much power into these corners. Get a good exit, get the run over the crest here. You can see the adjustment on the steering wheel as Corrins just makes a couple of little slides as he tries to put the power down. And it's hard to chase these cars through here. A little bit of understeer on the exit. And then down into this final sequence of the right-left as we come onto the main straight here at Mid-Ohio. So the Canadian doing well in 5th place at the moment, looking like he's ready to make a move up through this pack towards the front and towards Mackay Stevens.
Let's see if he can then. Corrins has a look on the outside. He dominates to the inside. He sends it up the inside on the brakes. And Jarvis was alert to that. He managed to be late on the brakes enough himself to just stay ahead and just clear Corrins and not even allow any overlap into the hairpin. But Corrins still has a good slipstream down the back straight. He has shown that he's not afraid to have a late one under braking. But this time, Jarvis locks up. Yeah, and that's going to allow. It's very hard to go around the outside here. He hasn't made it, Corrins. And Alex Ellis, Tom, is right in behind them.
Absolutely. So Ellis now, part of this. It's a 3-way fight. It's really a 4-way fight because behind him, Cyril Stanke is also doing a great job. Jarvis, who's in the lead of this little pack.
Wasn't
he's
Cyril
actually
the biggest mover?
Sorry, go ahead, mate.
Wasn't he the biggest mover at motorsport? Didn't he have the most places gained? I think did Cyril, didn't he?
I think he did. And Jarvis has joined us this week. Formula Renault driver, world Formula driver as well, and a former SR3 competitor. So he knows the Radicals in the real world. The first time he's raced in the Radical Cup iRacing Invitational.
Oh, and Morad's lost a lot of time, Tom, on this lap. Went very wide at the hairpin. Probably lost half a second to this group, and now...
the cones are going flying. They're trying to find all the space there on the track. It's a move. A move to the inside. Can he make it stick? No. So...
Well, the cones are the innocent victims of motor racing, Tom, and we've seen it once again there. But Jarvis has actually got some help now because he will be getting the slipstream off Daniel Morad.
Absolutely. Morad with a full Oculus setup. Quite an impressive setup. He's streaming live on Twitch as well. And, sort of caused a bit of chaos he did last week. He's making amends at the moment, Daniel Morad. Top 3 and looking strong. And a huge incident, the number 11. What happened there? It just looked like the car hooked up mid-corner. He lost it and damage on the 31 as well. So that's disaster.
Yeah, that's Paul Crabb, and that's last week's winner. And I think the incident might have been with Paul Clark, was it?
It was. So Paul Clark, and look, I wonder if that car had damage. There was no touch visibly through the stream, but just wonder if a bit of netcode there was actually a touch between the two of them. In the virtual world, if you will, and then perhaps some damage that caused that secondary accident.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense as to why that incident took place. And look at this battle now for third position. It's really hotting up, and actually these guys aren't too far behind. That's Tranter and Anderson. Tranter we were talking to on the grid, and he's made a very good start indeed. He's up 3 places from his 11th place starting spot. Yeah, going pretty well.
Yeah, I must say he was pretty calm on the grid too. I think I was more nervous for him watching that countdown clock. But Tranter, a strong competitor, has a little bit of a slide there. It's really difficult as you come down. There's quite a bit of decline in the raceway. The undulation here at Mid-Ohio is quite extreme, and it's quite nerve-wracking when you're behind the wheel. You're coming down the hill, you're not sure how much grip you've got, and another cone that's been dislodged there on the straightaway up to the hairpin.
I think something that's quite underappreciated characteristic of this circuit is just how many blind corners there are, Tom. I mean, you could even almost count turn 1 in that, because it's quite hard to spot that inside curve from the low cockpit view, and also in the infield section, especially when you crest the hill, you really can't see a lot of the corners in the middle sector. No,
that's right, and it is a really tricky track. I've only done it in an 800 horsepower Dodge Viper on street tires, and that was certainly a handful. But I imagine it's possibly more of a handful on these iRacing SR8s. Of course, the classic variant of the SR8 here in iRacing, and there's
Kamari Odom.
That's right. I'm just watching on board with David Jarvis at the moment, and a couple of moments for the cars in front, and a pass for Jarvis now into turn 1. They're almost 3 wide. Unbelievable. Are they going to make it stick? Yes, they are. Gee, they're going to go 4 wide if we're not careful down the short chute here into the hairpin, and jostling for position around the outside again. 42. So
spectacular.
Mackenzie Corrins in the thick of things here and not giving in at all.
That was tremendous stuff. Going through turn 1, I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever see, or nightmares maybe, that I'd ever see 3 wide in that corner, but we've seen it today. And Jarvis is still managing to stay ahead of this group. Morad has gained a bit of time on this lot. There's a car off, a slow car off to the side, and it's a lapped car, possibly Chris Short, but coming through that right-hander over the crest, which is very difficult to spot. Ned, this left-hander is brilliant. You can barely see it. You just got to aim for the curve on the inside, hope that you don't run too wide, and then be very tidy and have some nice rotation through the second to last corner, because you need a good exit onto the straight, Tom, and that is a terrific section of the track.
Absolutely, and you can see there the patches in the tarmac. In fact, they're sort of key patches around this circuit, because that's where you're looking to put your outside wheel. That's where the grip is. And again, look at this amazing racing. I think Cyril Stankey is just holding back a little bit, just watching this fight in front, thinking, can I wait for the incident to happen in front of me and that track to sort of open up?
But, look at that, nearly 150 miles an hour. In fact, just touching 150 miles an hour before they brake for the infield section. Hard on the brakes for Jarvis.
A little touch.
Yeah, Corrins just into the back of him, just nibbled at him, going into the slow corner. But still ahead is Jarvis. Corrins and Ellis now almost going side by side through the infield, but it's very much one line through this part of the track. You won't get anybody making a silly move really here. No braking areas to speak of, but some fantastic action here. And for those at home who maybe didn't understand what Tom was saying, those darker patches of tarmac, that's newer tarmac. So it's naturally a little bit smoother, a little bit grippier than some of the other parts, and Corrins went wide there in the final corner, Tom, and there goes Alex Ellis up into 5th.
Yeah, so a little bit of a mistake, and capitalizing Alex Ellis. So the top 5 now, Mackay Stevens from Zach Woolen, Daniel Morad, David Jarvis, and Alex Ellis.
Oh, Corrins! Corrins throws it up the inside on Stanky. Try and keep that position. There is so much traffic out there on the track today, Tom. We saw what havoc it played at motorsport. I wonder what it's going to do today.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the challenge we've got. Obviously, a lot of very versed, extremely talented iRacers and guys coming into the series to try their luck for the first time. It's fantastic to have so much competition, so many competitors from all around the world. We've got just about... Oh, and there's someone's been sent into the barriers there. So I was just watching on board with Cyril, and someone up ahead, perhaps one of those back markers, getting in the way, and the front runners having none of that. They just want to get a move on, get things going, and get through the pack. So, yeah, I as I was saying, that so many drivers from all around the world and all of Radical's real-world championships.
And it's Nuxol, Tom, who gets sent into the...
It's a shame.
Him. Oh, there he goes.
He just lost it by himself. Yeah. So Nuxol from California just lost it over the rise there.
Oh, now Corrins was on the outside of Jarvis going into the hairpin. And Ellis is ahead of Jarvis. Up into P4 for him. And now Corrins is having a look at... Jarvis is very much I think the cork in the bottle here. Might have even been a little touch going down the straight, but both managed to survive it. Corrins very late on the brakes and positions his car nicely into the slow section and takes 5th place away from David Jarvis.
So Morad will be no doubt watching his mirrors, looking at this battle unfolding behind him, trying to keep it clean, just trying his best to hit his marks. Oh no, there's been a huge incident. The 29. So that's David Jarvis. He's got huge amounts of damage. The other car involved doesn't look too bad though, does it? So the 99 of Cyril Stamke, he was the one who was sort of back there biding his time. They've come together.
It looked like
Jarvis effectively out of this motor race.
It looked like he didn't anticipate. It looked like Jarvis was quite slow in the middle of the corner. It looked like Cyril didn't really anticipate the closing speed. Just went right into the back of him and ends up spinning him off, unfortunately. And quite a lot of damage for Jarvis, sadly. Yes,
indeed. As I look down the order, some other names making a little bit of a quiet move up through the field. So there's Dave Tweedley in 25. It'll be interesting to see how he goes. He's a real-world Radical racer, up 3 positions. We had Joe Nuxol has come up a long way, Tom's brother. But there's a few movers and shakers, isn't there?
Yeah, sorry about that, Tom. Well, Dave Tweedley's in Gulf Racing colours for me, which looks spectacular on this car. And yeah, really looking good there for Dave.
Oh,
but he's under a lot of pressure, and that's Desadler in all kinds of out of shape, I think, as he tries to fend off Austin Riley, who's up from 31st on the grid.
A huge hip and shoulder, and Austin Riley now looks like he's got damage. So I wonder if that was as a result of that hip and shoulder, or whether Austin is just trying to deal with the damage that he's got. But certainly Jerome.
Did they hit each other? Did they?
I think they did, and I'm just wondering whether Jerome actually has received that damage. Apologies, it wasn't Austin with the damage, but Austin certainly a hip and shoulder there on the back straight. So Jerome's car looking all sorts of awkward as he comes around these corners.
He may have provided it.
Yeah. So here's the replay now. We'll see what happens. So Jerome in the number 7, trying to go around the outside, then the up and under. And a hip and shoulder there from the Canadian. So I'm not sure if that was quite intentional, but Austin Riley perhaps just getting a bit of a wiggle on as he put the power down.
He's a Canadian, so it must be cross-checking.
Yeah. So Austin Riley, you could just see it. The car steps out as he's under power, the back end, and that was a huge hip and shoulder in the end. It's unfortunate there for Jerome Desadler.
Unfortunately, that rear wing damage is going to play havoc with his straight line speed. But look at this battle. This is shaping up to be a great one. Got Matt Anderson at the front of this group. Then you've got Mike Tranter, Andy Kutcher, Darrell Taylor, and then Cyril Stanky's a couple of seconds behind. And having a look now, he's oh, that's the lap car, isn't it, Dimmy?
Well, that's all right. The lap cars, as you said before, are going to create a fair bit of chaos in this race. But I was just going to mention this racetrack just producing fantastic action here in the Radical Cup iRacing Invitational. I thought last week's race was good. The last 5 minutes, if you haven't seen it, go back and find the round 3 from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, because it was just exceptional. All sorts of carnage and chaos for those last laps, and then Paul Crabb coming away with the win. Unbelievable, wasn't it?
I was so confused. I was even calling the wrong names at one point. Some of the cars look quite similar, and yeah, I think I thought that Crabb and whoever it was, I've forgotten who the other one was, had come together. It might have been Ellis, and it was actually Corrins. So yeah, there was all sorts of chaos going on at the end of the race. Here's Tranter, and this is going to be interesting to see what kind of pace now Tom Tranter has compared to Anderson. I will say though, to your point, this track providing a great race, as you said, it seems to suit these Radicals perfectly, because it suits a nice handling car. It suits a car that's nimble.
Absolutely, and that's what we love about Radicals in the real world. And if you want to test out a Radical, next week we will be launching the new SR3XX on R-Factor, so swapping platforms for the week. We, of course, were meant to be going real-world racing at Mid-Ohio, and it's lucky that we can race this weekend, but R-Factor next week with the new SR3XX. So check out the Radical social media channels and the Radical website for more information on that. Look at Tranter go around here. 116 mile an hour he reached before braking and just doing a little bit of a speed adjustment, cresting the hill there. We'll see how he takes this next high-speed left-hander. Fantastic racing. And it's interesting because everyone's got a slightly different line around this circuit. If we stick on board with Tranter, we'll notice into the hairpin, he actually has quite a different line to Matt Anderson. Sort of decides to turn in early and trail brake to the apex, and a back marker there in the way. So let's have a look. So Anderson will stay a little bit wider. Tranter sort of narrows in that first apex and keeps it a little tighter. But it does seem to work for Anderson, doesn't it? Because he just pulls away a little bit as they exit the hairpin.
I'm just going to see what happens down the straight, because Tranter's got a great slipstream. It's not the longest of straightaway sections here, but it does allow for some action into the braking area. I was going to say, is one of those two styles going to be easier on the tyres, do you think?
Well, it's a very good question. I think around here, having done some pretty horrid laps the other day in practice, I must admit, you could really notice that it was easy to get too much steer on, obviously carrying a little bit too much speed into the corners, and then you're starting to get a bit of mid-corner exit understeer and scrubbing those tyres. And I just noticed on board with Tranter that he was having a moment before. He's pushing hard, trying to catch the Australian Matt Anderson. Anderson doing good under pressure here. He's got a clean track ahead of him, and he'll just be trying to get the fastest possible line through turn 1, carry all that speed onto the short chute, then not muck up his braking zone into this hairpin. It's so easy to overcook it into here. Tranter looks like he's on the binders a little bit later than Anderson. Anderson with the exit speed though, so important down this next straightaway. And now with a good gap, he can sort of have a sigh of release, catch his breath, wipe the brow. I'm sure they'll be doing it. It might be iRacing, virtual racing, but these guys are sweating behind their steering wheels. They might be in their pajamas. I don't know what about Matt Anderson. He's coming off a long day in Australia. But whether it's in the socks or the racing boots, these guys are pushing hard. And I know from my own experience, I think you sweat more than, well, you can tell me, Andrew, you sweat more than just about real life.
I think I've come out of real races less sweaty than after an iRacing race. Yeah, I did 100 laps of round goes Kutscher from 9th place. He's still going to keep 9th place. He's not going to lose out, but I might have lost the 1 place actually to Darrell Taylor. I was going to point out that Horatio Brown has gained back a lot of the places that he lost earlier on. He's actually back up to 14th place, actually having a very, very good run after being down in about 30th at one point.
And the car looks in pretty good condition, doesn't it? So
yeah, he's got a little bit of crumpling on one of the quarter panels, but he seems all right, yeah.
Yeah, so Horatio Brown from Jamaica back up into 14th at the moment. And I was going to give you a little bit of a tidbit on Andy Kutscher. He's been spotting for John Hansen, who was in the top 5 last week. John Hansen been doing extremely well. In fact, Hansen was extremely quick in last night's pre-qualifying, but couldn't make the race today. He's a doctor, and he's in the hospital today. He said he would be hoping to watch this broadcast, so shout out to John Hansen. I don't know if we're in your ears as you scrub up or something like that, but
I was going to say, if he's a surgeon, he's probably got it on in the background during the operation.
That's it. But in any event,
don't accidentally drop anything into the patient while you're listening, John.
But in any event, Andy Kutscher, his spotter, doing a great job inside the top 10. He's a bit of a gun around this circuit. And although he just had a momentary crack under pressure there before, I expect we'll see him come up, storm back up inside. Perhaps we'll gun for him to be inside the top 5 before this race ends.
We've had, when we were talking about Horatio Brown earlier on, we actually had, we've actually had a few Jamaicans actually recently on iRacing being quite prominent. We had Taj Edwards in the Apex Racing League GT series last week, taking pole position. So definitely a bit of a groundswell in sim racing in Jamaica, and it's great to see.
Oh, great real racing down there as well.
You said there's a lot of good race meetings around on the island, isn't there?
Yeah, Jamaica and all the Caribbean. In fact, we have the Caribbean Racing Series for the Radical SR3. But Jamaica, I was lucky enough to take an SR3 around one of the circuits there, and it's almost like a Monaco set into the hillside. There's absolutely no room for error. And just awesome racing with all sorts of machinery, including DTM cars. And Kyle Gregg, sponsored by Texaco, he runs one of our Spyders, so the twin turbo Spyder down there in Jamaica. And great to see, he was out here a couple of weeks ago in the series. I'm sure we'll see him again. But yeah, big shout out to everyone in Jamaica and from Dover Raceway as well. You can watch a little bit about that racetrack and the racing down there if you check out Dinner with Racers, which is Ryan Eversley's podcast. And that's been made into a series. So
yeah, the league, I was going to say, we were covering it at one point, I think.
So let's pick up Mackay Stevens now. He's still in the lead. But the gap, I think, has started to reduce, hasn't it? Zach Woolen looking pretty solid behind him. Only, the interval's about 9 seconds, is it? So that's the back marker.
Yeah, last lap, the previous lap, he was 2 tenths quicker. Actually, this lap, Stevens was 2 seconds quicker than Woolen. But yeah, the previous lap, he had gained a little bit, but I guess some traffic issues, most likely for Woolen, because he's dropped down to about 10 seconds behind now. But a dominating performance by Stevens at the moment. But as we saw in motorsport, this is how far I'm not seeing things, am I? It was Alex Ellis that was winning the motorsport race, wasn't it? And
yeah, we had Ellis, that's right. And then Ellis got, he sort of got a bit impatient around the back markers. It was around about this time.
And if you remember, he was about this far in front.
Yeah, exactly. So anything can happen. Mackay Stevens has to keep calm. He's got the gap, and in fact, he's stretching it out even more. So 11.7 seconds or so now. So
There's actually a hell of a scrap going on for 6th at the minute. Tranter, Taylor, and Anderson are almost nose to tail. Sorry to butt in there, Tom, but I thought there was some. I mean, there seems to be some very close action out there.
And Tranter with that, he's almost got a bit of a Jamaican paint scheme on that car, but Tranter doing a strong job, isn't he? He was calm on the grid. He's in front of Daryl Taylor, as you mentioned, a fellow Brit, and then
there goes Taylor. He's in the wall, Tom. Unbelievable.
And the curse of the commentator. So Taylor, he's lost a few positions there, and who's that in the that paint scheme, the classic John Player special scheme back there?
It's Nathan Jones, I think.
Nathan Jones just in front of him. So Nathan with the red stripe in the middle. So good to see our tech. Of course, he helps us out with the fixed setups here for the iRacing, and they've been.
And that's Riley. That was Nathan Brumby sending it, I think, and it not working out. And off goes Riley.
Yeah, so Riley with damage, I think, and he's. So it's all starting to unfold again here, unravel for some of these drivers as we come into the final minutes of this race.
And of course, if you've ever seen any accidents there, which we all have, you can almost very easily end up on the other side of the course in the traffic if you're not careful. If you fly off a bit further, if Austin Riley had gone any further, he would have ended up on the other straight. So that's a bit treacherous. But I was going to point out that. I can't remember what I was going to point out now, but
that's all right. Well, we've got Paul Crabb here in car 15, and he's looking extremely racy on the 31. So, well, actually, as I say that, I think it was the back marker looking extremely racy on Paul Crabb, as perhaps Paul Crabb went up through the field there. So he's down in 15th. Horatio Brown in front of him. Keith Carter in 12th. Ben Ireland, we haven't mentioned him much. He's in 11th, just outside of the top 10. Daryl Taylor in 10th.
I've just remembered what I was going to say. When Taylor went off, he hit the wall, I think, but he didn't seem to sustain any damage. So he seemed like he got away with that.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? And it's funny how the cars seem to, I guess if you just hit at the right angle, the damage model on iRacing forgives you. Sometimes I think it's a little excessive. You know, one of the great things about Radicals is they still use a fiberglass shell and the shape of them as well. You can kind of do a bit of a side glance or a glancing blow, and you tend to get away with it. We don't encourage rubbing in our racing, but certainly if that happens, you do tend to live to fight another day. And we're on board now with Daryl Taylor. Fantastic paint job on the on his helmet there. So what happens? He just loses out of the final corner. And
gets hit the wall.
Gets close, but the gravel trap saves him.
Yeah, the gravel trap doing its job there, quite impressively actually. And Taylor then saved. It looked like he hit the wall because he disappeared from shot a little bit. So, yeah, he actually managed to get away with that. So that's pretty good for him. Kutcher is still 7th. And then it's Anderson, Stanke then. So all these guys in sort of 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. As car 2 is Round, Nuxall, and Joe Nuxall. But yeah, all these guys in the low reaches of the top 10, Tom, they've had a bit scrappy races, really, but they're still fighting.
Absolutely.
Oh, Tranter! Tranter's around.
Oh, that's an absolute disaster for Mark Tranter. He's back going again, but he's fallen down the order, so here's the replay.
Oh, he's coming to the pits, in fact. So is it damage for Tranter? Oh,
So
he was having a problem before this, wasn't he? He's got suspension damage, Tom.
Yes, look at that. The right rear of the car There's damage on the wheel arch and obviously in the suspension, as you mentioned. So Andy, yet again, mate, this race getting exciting with only a minute or so to go.
I wonder if it's got something to do with sort of this race length in that, 25 minutes is probably sort of where a lot of the concentration maybe starts to wander, and I don't know if that's happened. We didn't see how Tranter got his damage, but he has come into the pits, he has gone out with a fast repair, and he is back out in what looks like 13th place. So it's not the be-all and end-all for him. He's still going to get a decent result, albeit not the one he wanted.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm actually watching on board with Mackay Stevens, our leader, and he just managed to miss all the mayhem in that in the hairpin. A couple of back markers in front of him, and it was almost the curse of the leader, if you like, coming through the back markers. Here's the replay now.
I wonder if they hit each other now. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to see it fully, but
no, we that's a replay of Nathan Jones. So let's see if we can.
Here we go.
Yeah, so
Ross
Mackay
Elliott.
Stevens with Ross Elliott in front.
Oh dear. Car 40, whoever that is, Joshua Peacock, absolutely rogered him there, and Stevens was very lucky that he managed to go around managed to avoid that one.
Yeah, so Mackay Stevens in the lead of this motor race and just having to remain calm. He just clipped a little bit of curb on turn 1, and he's
This is a replay
approaching.
of Corring spinning. So, and he loses a lot of time, but not necessarily any places. Lost about 5 seconds though, Tom.
So, Andy, I think a little bit of damage on these cars, don't you think? There's just... Oh no, he dropped it. He dropped it on the outside. Got a little bit too much curb. But...
And that's the danger. That's what we talked about before the race started, didn't we? That this track will bite you if you get it wrong.
Absolutely, and another one running wide. So Mackay
It's the
Stevens
last
was that. Or just a driver around him. Last lap now for Mackay Stevens. And he's only got a few more corners to go. He comes up to the bridge. Through the high-speed left-hander. And he's just got to keep it clean now. Through the final right-left. Smooth on the power, nothing, no mistakes required. Nothing to gain, everything to lose, and he does it through the last corner, and he takes the win. Congratulations, Mackay Stevens. That was really a start-to-finish race, wasn't it?
Fantastic drive by Stevens. Woolen comes across in second. I think he's going to be fairly happy with that. Morad is going to come and claim third, and he is very happy with that. You can tell it was a crash. And it's Stanky. Oh, and it's Anderson. Anderson's gone off, so him and Stanky have come to blows, it looks like. On the final lap, we'll have to see what happened there. Stanky looks like he's going to come and finish 7th. Ellis 4th, Corrins 5th. Andy Kutcher is going to finish 6th. Then it's going to be Cyril Stanky. And Darrell Taylor is going to get 8th. Ben Island gets up to 9th, just ahead of Anderson. So is Island going to finish 9th? Oh, what's going on in the final? Oh, big one. That might be Keith Carter. That's a big one in the final few corners. It's all kicking off here. I'm not quite sure why or how it's going on. 3 wide almost across the line. But it's Tom Mills ahead of Mark Tranter. And Anderson gets 12th in the end. So he's going to be, I think he's going to be pretty annoyed with that. Brown coming through in 13th ahead of Carter. And we're looking at Crabb, who it's not the heroics of last week, Tom, but he did well to battle back after the accident.
Absolutely, and you could see from some of those shots just how much damage was on the rear of a lot of these cars as they were coming to the line. I think a few last lap Hail Marys happening, and the drivers doing a few burnouts as we go to the blimp shot. So that's kind of nice.
I think a couple of them dropped it in the end zone, to be honest. I don't think it was well completed. By a couple of them, but hey, that's how it goes.
Absolutely. Well, another tremendous race here. from the Radical Cup iRacing Invitational at Mid-Ohio this week. And as we mentioned before, we'll be on R Factor next week, looking at the brand new Radical SR3 XX. So
I was just going to ask you actually, Tom, is that free, by the way, just so that people know?
So it's possible to view it, and we are actually taking invitations for people to test drive the brand new car virtually next week as well. So check out the Radical Sports Cars website and read about the new car, the new AIM technology that gives a lot more data and telemetry at the driver's fingertips. And also, you
get
can
over there,
you can,
everybody.
yeah, absolutely, and you can check out how to be a part of that launch, whether it's watching on the live stream or actually taking part in the R Factor simulation as well. But we'll do a virtual walk around that car, which will be excellent stuff. But I guess almost an anticlimax here today, wasn't it? Because we didn't have that sort of chaos that ensued like it did last week. But I wonder who we can get into the commentary box with us now. I wonder if we can even see if Mark Tranter can join us. Yeah.
There he is. Mark, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah.
So we spoke to you on the grid, and it seemed all calm and placid, and then the race started, and it looked like it was quite chaotic out there for you.
Yeah, I had a really good battle for the first 20 minutes or so with Matt. We're about a second apart for the entire stint. And then he made a little mistake, managed to get past and pull a bit of a gap. And then he got a bit caught up behind me, and I thought I was sitting pretty in sixth. And then, a little spin from a back mark that I didn't spot, and it just caught me with a net code. So a bit disappointed, but hey.
This track is it's very technical, and it's quite narrow in places and very tricky. Do you think that this contributed because it was quite a big grid? Do you think it made it a lot more difficult out there, especially with the traffic?
Certainly, when I had 5 minutes to go and saw a gaggle of about 5 lap cars in front of me, I was hoping that it was going to finish next lap. But it's not easy getting around the traffic, but it is what it is, and you just got to make the best you can out of it. That's it, yeah.
Well, Mark, you've got to be pleased with the result either way. A strong finish after a little bit of chaos there, and I guess now it's looking forward to Spa-Francorchamps, isn't it, in this series? That will be a great one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It should be a great round for everyone. So yeah, fingers crossed that'll be a good race for me and for everyone else.
Well, congratulations again, Mark. Thanks for taking part. Thanks for taking the time out on the grid to talk to us. And while you sign off, we'll try and get our winner if we can. I saw him around on Discord, so I wonder if we can see if Mackay Stevens can join us. We'll try and make that happen for you folks at home.
We'll hang around for a minute or two, I think, and see what's going on. I really do like this circuit, and like I think it's great to drive. I think it's a really good one for hot lapping. The racing is good. Like I said, I think it suits the car, and I think when you get that combination, you get some really good stuff. I mean, we had some really close stuff, didn't we, Tom? Between sort of third down to seventh for quite some time in that one.
Absolutely, and even if you just look at the times, whether it's in qualifying or the races, amazingly tight throughout the field. That's what we love to see in the real world radical racing, and that's what these cars produce. Because being a spec racer means that it really just comes down to the driver talent. That's why we've fixed the setup here on the iRacing as well, because it just brings out the best of the drivers as opposed to worrying about who's spending more money on the machine. And radical racing, whether it's at the country club tracks in North America or the amazingly competitive racing that we have in the UK, of course, a series in Australia, all throughout Europe. Asia is coming on strong with our series down there as well. And we mentioned the Caribbean. So all around the world, you can get behind the wheel of a Radical sports car, even if you haven't raced a real race car before, even if you haven't driven before. It's amazing. But David Hannemer Hansen, who of course has won Le Mans, started his driving, and I'm not talking racing, literally the first time he was behind the wheel of anything was a Radical out at Autobahn Country Club. So it just goes to show you can start in a Radical, and whether it's David Hannemer Hansen or John Faub, make your way all the way to Le Mans. And we'll certainly be rooting on for John Faub later in the year as he takes on Le Sarthe. But I can't see if we've got anyone else in the interview waiting room.
I'll tell you
but
what,
Andy,
while we wait, if we wait for see if anybody else wants to come and join us, I can read out the results for you of this one. I think we can do that. So Mackay Stevens with the win, 12.5 seconds clear of Zach Woolen. Daniel Morad in third, and fourth for Alex Ellis. Matt Corrins got fifth in the end after a great battle in that pack. Andy Kutcher sixth, Cyril Stanke in seventh, and Darrell Taylor eighth. Ninth for Ben Ireland, ahead of Tom Mills, who just beat Mark Trance to the line by just half a tenth of a second. Matt Anderson in 12th, ahead of Horatio Brown. We saw him off on the first lap, but then recovered very well indeed from about the 30th place. Keith Carter in 14th. That's the Canadian Keith Carter for those keeping score at home. Paul Crabb in 15th. 16th for Joshua Peacock. He was one lap down. Then the rest of the cars were one lap down. Kamari Odom, 17th. JJ Aston in 18th. 19th for Jerome de Sadalier, and then 20th for Dave Tweedley. Nate Smith was 21st, ahead of Chris Short, and Ross Elliott 23rd. 24th, Paul Clark. Gerard Watzinger, 25th. Then Nathan Jones, 26th. John Nutsall, 27th. And then Brendan Wright, 28th. 29th was Tom Nuxall. And then Jan Sotelo in 30th. Austin Riley, 31st. Nathan Bromby, 32nd. 33rd was Ross Lundberg, ahead of Jan Osterlo. John Faub, 35th. David Jarvis, 36th. Drew Altman, 37th. American Keith Carter in 38th. Ahead of Premislav Pianashik. And then Ari Leindyke, Richard Thomas, and Jacek Zielonska. And Tom, there's some big names who ended up coming to grief quite early on, especially Pianazik and Thomas, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Thomas, a former champion, and looking forward to getting back out in the racing at Road America in a couple of weeks' time. And John Faub was another one. In fact, he just sent me a text saying, "Thanks for hosting these. They're lots of fun, but I had a bit of a chaotic moment with number 44." So John Faub just explaining why he was that way. But it looks like we've got Kamari Odom in the commentary box. So Kamari, welcome to the live stream, and you're in Georgia too. So how was your race today?
See if he unmutes himself, actually. Kamari, I don't know if you can hear us at all.
Well, while we try and work out that little technical glitch, Kamari's actually done the SR1 driving school at Primal, which is out at Atlanta Motorsport Park, and participated in that. He's done a bit of testing as well in some other forms of motorsport, but very much an iRacer and looking to make his way into the world of motorsport. And I don't
know if he wants to speak to us, actually, because he keeps leaving the channel.
I think he's trying to sort out that technical glitch. Of course, all of this a little bit new to most of us, Discord and the live streaming and all the rest. But Kamari, if you do make your way into it, just sing out. We'll take a couple of moments to talk to you. But again,
it's fun as well. It must be fun for you as well, though, Tom, because you're getting to converse with and meet a lot of these drivers who you might not have had the chance to chat to before.
Oh, that's right. I mean, this has been a fantastic way to get drivers, again, from all around the world competing. And it's great to see the iRacers that are so passionate about the Radical cars in the virtual world actually take on some of the drivers that are genuinely the best at what they do in the real world. And so it is fantastic. We've seen guys that, like Alex Ellis and Daniel Morad, guys that that are at the pointy end of real world racing fields, taking on the best of, you know, the likes of Zachary Woolen and the others. So it's just tremendous to see. And then I think for a lot of these guys, it's just bragging rights as well. Of course, Mackay Stevens, an instructor out of Autobahn, you can sort of tell that that's a good patch to wear for the next few months as he takes clients on at Autobahn. Well, hey, I'm not too bad in the virtual world, and I'm pretty damn good in the real world as well.
Well, I always think that when we've had a lot of experience of this over the past sort of several weeks and months, and I think real world drivers, when they come into the sim initially, they're a tiny bit slower than say most of the sim drivers, but eventually they all equalize out in pace because, you know, their natural talent will win through and will end up making them competitive. And we've seen it with the likes of Jensen Button in some of the series that are broadcast on other channels that should not be named, where he comes in and, you know, does exceptionally well just because he's that damn good.
Well, that's right, and I think a lot of it comes down to a little bit of muscle memory. Of course, in a real car, you develop a sense for the brakes, and you have that the feeling through your bum, through the seat, and you're strapped into this thing. So all of a sudden, particularly if you're not using a very expensive rig, you've got different sensory inputs. It's the sound in iRacing that's so critical. You can hear if the brakes are locking up, not see if that smoke is coming up, or feel the difference in the rate of deceleration in a real race car. So there's different things to pick up and just learn. And whilst I'm personally struggling a lot, I can see that a lot of our real world racers are doing a tremendous job. And it's interesting to see, of course, a lot of the guys using iRacing and using these platforms, whether it's rFactor, iRacing, Assetto Course, to hone in, to learn the tracks, because they are so realistic, and it gives the drivers a lot of experience before they jump into the real world. And we'll see the transition there in a couple of weeks' time. Of course, Spa-Francorchamps next after a week's break. And then our final round of the 6-round championship will be at Road America before we go to the real Road America. And it'll be interesting to see the likes of Dave Tweedley, because he's won at Road America. How will he do in the virtual world versus in the real world the next week, where he'll be running up the front?
Well, indeed. And hopefully we might be able to get Kamari in now, and we'll see if we can get Mr. Odom to talk to us. Believe. There we go. Can you hear us, Kamari?
Okay, here we go.
Hey. There we go.
So,
sorry, Tom.
No, go. Look, I was just going to say, Kamari, you're also sitting somewhere in Georgia, I believe, and you've been out to Primal at the racing school at Atlanta Motorsport Park. So you've driven a Radical in real life, but now an SR8 in the virtual world.
Oh, I love it. I'm really just trying to get used to the car. I've tested it a couple times when I first started iRacing, but really just being competitive and trying to get quicker in it. It's always fun trying to turn each and every lap.
And Kamari, just tell us a little bit about yourself, because you're wanting to make it big in the world of motorsport. So what's next for you, and what have you got planned for this year once we get a green flag, if you will, on the racing?
Well, I'm still looking for and trying to get some more funding so that I can race in just some junior Formula 4 or F1600 or US F2000, so I can just move up and go to IndyCar or Formula 1.
Well, it's always the racer's will to have a big dream and to try and make it. It's we look forward to seeing how you progress through the ranks, and we'd love to see you at some point out on the grid of a Radical Cup race. Of course, Radical offers a pretty good stepping stone through the local club racing, and then the National Radical Cup Series, the Blue Marble Radical Cup in North America, and of course you can race the world, be it at Bathurst, Spa-Francorchamps, Monza, Silverstone, the list goes on. So Radical is a great way to start ticking off the bucket list tracks, whether you are a gentleman driver or an up-and-coming superstar like Kamari. So, mate, thanks for your time today. I guess, Andy, it's almost that time that we should wrap things up here from Mid-Ohio.
It is indeed. Yeah, thanks to everybody who's come and spoken to us. And, you know, we always enjoy this race. It's always great fun, the Radical Cup iRacing Invitational, and great to bring everybody together from all over the world, really, in terms of radical racing. And yeah, so I'll say good luck to you, Tom, for next week and the R Factor business, and we'll see what. Hopefully that goes well. And once again, it's a pleasure being with you.
Well, look, thank you, Andy. As always, it's strange doing these virtual events. You're not alongside me. We're sort of separated by a sea. So, look, mate, it's been wonderful once again. And as you mentioned, for all of those Radical fans and perhaps people that are looking to get into the brand for the first time, check out the website. The brand new Radical SR3 XX just launched yesterday, and we'll be taking it for a spin on R Factor next week. So look out for that. That's on Sunday, the 31st. So look out for that. And until then, we'll see you next time.